Yeah.
So Mount Doom erupting would essentially be a beacon. A beacon's very important in Lord of the Rings. The beacon is lit! Mordor calls for aid! Hail, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 4, The Great Wave. We open with a Muriel dream sequence, brought on, as we find out from using a Palantir, the terrifying glimpse of her demise and Numenor's future downfall.
Oh, you don't think she survives?
No, well, from the lore, she doesn't. But yes. She doesn't turn into a bird and fly away. That's somebody else can do that stuff. She's, stuck with the flood. We'll talk about a little bit of that later on. We end with young Isildur and his friends volunteering to join the expeditionary force journeying to Middle-earth with Galadriel to save the Southlands. Paul!
Yes.
What did you think of Episode 4?
I liked it. I was involved with the storylines, so I cared what happened to the characters there. So, I'm still adapting. These names are really quite interesting there, like Pharazôn and Galadriel, and these names I'm still trying to adapt to. But but I like the characters, and so I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. It was funny. Good friend of the channel and contributor to the channel occasionally, Theron, pointed out kind of a fun irony. So the chant that we hear, I think it's actually in episode 3, the Numenorians say, "The sea is always right." And so the fact that you got this culture based on this mantra that gets destroyed by the sea, it not only wipes them out, it also beats them rhetorically. What you gonna do? I mean, C's always right. I guess we should all die. Thanks, C. Because that is going to come to pass. I mean, that's the trajectory of this story. It's interesting in some ways. Perhaps now Muriel has like a Captain Pike problem, right? So as soon as she starts attending an event with a bunch of newborns, she's gonna start, looking over her shoulder, like, we're gonna cancel this event for the next 50 years because I'm going to control when this happens. For those who don't know, we had this big thing about I was constantly trying to get Captain Pike to control his destiny because he knows the moment that he's going to die or be disfigured. And so I'm like, well, just avoid that day. So same here with Muriel. Just avoid the thing. I'm never going to look at anybody's newborns. We're done with that.
Well, do you think that, now the ocean is not going to fall over us now because you didn't look at those newborns? Is that
correct?
Is that your plan? I see.
The vision can't come to pass. You can't do it. I will note that in the lore, when the flood comes, she tries to climb to the highest point on the island. It's the top of the sacred mountain, Meneltarma, and she doesn't make it. In fact, I guess it's probably worth noting that all of the major Numenorian characters that we're meeting, Muriel, Pharazôn, Elendil, Isildur, throw in Anarion, they all die violent deaths. Even those that escape the island, none of them are like, and then peaceful in my bed. No. These guys are marked for death.
Okay. So you're much better off if you're one of these characters created for this series.
That's right. Yeah, Eärien, the daughter. She's probably got a cool history. She's probably gonna live forever. Kemen, Pharazôn's son, new guy. He could. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, if he starts studying abroad, that probably
that's right. Yeah,
the smartest choice. Oh, what did you think, sir?
I liked this episode as well, mainly because it did kind of come back to the Durin. Elrond storyline, which I think is going to be where we find the most familiar territory for the book. I would like to see more Celebrimbor. I think Celebrimbor is actually the target. That's what we want for book readers to go, there's that plot. So anyway, they're hiding the ball, especially because, and I mentioned this in the reaction, but Celebrimbor also dies a violent death. Spoilers. So he's on a timeline We got to get him doing stuff while he can.
Okay.
But anyway, so yes, I enjoyed it. There was some dialogue I wasn't, all that thrilled with. But generally speaking, I appreciated that we're pushing the plots forward. I liked the introduction of Adar. This, again, a character made up for the show, but it's got an intriguing backstory that I'm trying to piece out. I did some theories in the reaction video, and a lot of people are writing in their thoughts, which are really cool, actually. I'm like, okay, yes, commenters have some very good ideas.
Oh, good.
We'll just see how that plays out. I'm appreciating it. It is, my expectations of something from the lore are I'm just kind of taking those aside. I'm just like, okay, let's just enjoy this on its face.
You adapted.
And actually, I have to admit, I am finding joy. This is where me as book reader is finding joy. I am searching, and I'm seeing. I'm actually finding, searching in vain. No, finding lore moments that have inspired scenes in the show. So in other words, it's like this isn't really from the lore, but I think I know what inspired them in that moment. And so that's actually a kind of a fun exercise for me to be like, for instance, I'll throw this out.
Yeah, go ahead, throw it out.
So Galadriel is watching Muriel attend to her aging, senile father, Palantir.
Yes.
And I found that a pretty touching scene. Galadriel has certainly seen death, including in her own family, but she's probably not used to seeing people grow old, age, and die. And it's a stark difference between the humans and the elves. It leads to human jealousy of the elves, which we'll see with Pharazôn.
Sure.
But for elves, it's also a blind spot. It's like they can't empathize with humanity's fear of mortality.
Okay.
And so I've done a video on this, but I'm going to read a quick excerpt from the Appendices because I think it's pretty relevant. This to me is actually one of the most poignant passages Tolkien wrote. Arwen is having a final conversation with a dying Aragorn. Mm-hmm. She's chosen a mortal life, forsaking this elvish lifespan. And it's not until that she's made this irreversible choice that she finally empathizes with our Pharazôn and the Númenóreans. So here's the quick quote. Talking to Aragorn. There is now no ship that would bear me hence, and I must indeed abide the doom of men, whether I will or I nill, the loss and the silence. But I say to you, King of the Númenóreans, not till now have I understood the tale of your people and their fall. As wicked fools I scorned them, but I pity them at last. For if this is indeed, as the Eldar say, the gift of the one to men, it is bitter to receive. And so it's like this, I think it does a lot to explain the disconnect between elves and humans.
Interesting.
And it maybe makes our villain a little more sympathetic, Pharazôn, for the choices he's going to make.
That's quite a progression there, from scorn to pity.
Right. Wow, now that I have this mortality, I realize why you did the things you did. It came from a place of fear of death that she couldn't empathize with until that moment. And I kind of saw a little bit of that with Galadriel. She looks really uncomfortable in this scene, and I get the feeling like, this is like I'm not used to seeing this relationship. So, a child with an aging, dying parent. It must be very awkward for an elf to witness.
I was surprised that I wasn't tired yet of Galadriel trying to strong her way through all situations. So much so when she got locked up, it took Halbrand in order to get her out again. It's sort of like, you just won't learn, will you? You just have to I'll fight. Oh, no, they're going to throw you in jail. You're not as powerful as you think you are.
She's had enough education by this point. She's learned from some, for instance, she was taught by Melian, one of the more powerful Maya spirits, who was known for her wisdom back in the First Age. So she's got some wisdom on her that they're not really reflecting here. I think what they're trying to say in this show is,
is it through here that she gets to the wisdom?
Well, that's the idea. I think they're trying to say here, Second Age Galadriel is going to get wisdom from these experiences and then become a wise third age Galadriel. But I feel like she was probably already a wise first age Galadriel, but that's fine. Anyway, that's what the show's doing. It is. I'll say this. I noted this in the reaction video, but I'll note it here as well. So when you talk about Halbrand kind of talks her down from in the prison cell, I thought that was the biggest sign that we have to date that Halbrand could be Sauron.
Yeah, I saw somebody else note, like, oh, look at that, him talking the way out of prison there, the way that Sauron convinces somebody else to let him out, you know.
Yeah, well, he says that the quote is, "You do well to identify what it is that your opponent most fears. Give them a means of mastering it so that you can master them." That's the playbook for Sauron.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's why I'm like, but anyway, we'll see how that all goes. So the daughter that's created for the show, Iarian, she's a builder. She's an apprentice builder. That's how she meets up with Kemen, Pharazon's son, and all this stuff. I'm not sure where that's going, but I'll just throw out the fact that the thing that's going to be built in Numenor that is important is a massive temple. There's going to be this giant temple to Melkor, and they're going to do sacrifices there. It's going to be pretty terrible eventually. I don't think that's a season 1 thing. I just wonder if, I'm trying to think of like, why would you have a major character be an apprentice builder on Numenor at this time? And I'm like, that's probably the only reason I can come up with is, maybe she's going to be somehow involved in building this temple and realize, oh God, what are we doing? Anyway, so.
One thing that was, I don't know, I mean, I'm okay with how it turned out, but I'm still a little questioning is, I was kind of impressed by the fact, I mean, that, Arondir was imprisoned last episode, and it seemed like he was going to get out, and then he didn't get, okay, so this is really serious stuff here, where he is right now. Like, and then, it's like, what? Was it that? It's like, I feel like I almost missed something, because it's like, now he's free. Wait a minute. What?
Right, it was odd, because it's not, I don't believe anyway, that he's the last elf left. Like, one elf died trying to escape. He was trying to help the elf escape. Yeah. So they still need elven workers, I guess. So they're still got their, hey, you're imprisoned. But I'm not sure why Arondir gets chosen to be like, okay, fine, we're going to let you go, and you have to just give the warning. I wasn't sure. I mean, he killed an orc, I guess, or he killed whatever. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah. You're right. It seemed a little convenient for the plot. Like, why don't you just go and...
I like the battle, though, with Theo, infusing the blood into the sword there and him battling. I like that, even though they really made a big point of like, oh, it looks like you're going to die now. Oh, no, you're not. Arondir is going to save you. Okay.
Yeah, the sword is a big mystery. I will say that there were some awesome commenters who pointed out that perhaps Adar is looking for Theo's sword to identify himself as the chief lieutenant of Morgoth. Like it's like a symbol. It seems like he wants to reshape the world, much like Sauron ends up attempting. As he puts it, he says, that is something only gods can do, and I am no god, at least not yet. So I'll say this, since I'm now convinced, thanks to awesome commenters, that the first season is going to end with Mount Doom's eruption, maybe in the wrong hands, a la Adar or Sauron, the magic of this sword can cause the eruption. It is linked. So that's why it has Sauron's map symbol on it, on the sword. Okay. Like the followers were supposed to take that sword to the region, Mordor, and keep it there until the new leader was ready to reveal himself. Yeah. So Mount Doom erupting would essentially be a beacon. A beacon's very important in Lord of the Rings. The beacon is lit! Mordor calls for aid! Anyway, but it would be like, to anyone in the area, it would be like, all right, game on. Everybody show up. We just, the leader's here. That could be why the sword is so important, because Adar is, taking a lot of resources looking for this sword. Sure. And so, why? And that's kind of one of my thoughts, is maybe it's connected with like, all right, we've now set up the new leader, the new lieutenant of Morgoth.
Okay.
Anyway. We'll see. Because I feel like we might be coming to a Sauron may not be happy whenever this happens. Sauron may not be happy to see Adar. Like, Adar might be trying to take the position that Sauron has assumed he's going to take. I know, maybe.
Okay.
Enemy of my enemy kind of thing. Who knows? Some Easter eggs. There's a big one. We see Narsil shows up. So that's the sword. Cut the ring from Sauron's hand. And it's in the Palantir Tower. It's resting against the wall. And it looks exactly like the Peter Jackson version. So, anyway, that's a pretty cool Easter egg because, it's a sword forged by the dwarf Telkar in the First Age. Becomes an heirloom of the Lords of Numenor, and eventually Elendil took it when he escaped the downfall. So it's really cool. It's a really cool tie-in. It's awesome to see it there in Numenor. Narsil, yay. Miriel refers to 7 seeing stones, the Palantiri. She says the others are either lost or hidden. They're not lost. Elendil's going to take 7 stones to Middle-earth. And they're going to be used to communicate between the realms. Essentially, it's like a video chat feature.
Oh.
They're not really for seeing the future. And they're not like a fortune teller's crystal ball. That's not that's not what they do. It's interesting that Miriel's Palantir only shows the downfall. So here's a theory. Perhaps it's being affected by Tar Palantir's emotional state. There's an example of this in The Lord of the Rings regarding the stone that Denethor used at Minas Tirith. So the quote there, this is when Denethor dies holding the stone. It says, Then Denethor leapt upon the table, and standing there, wreathed in fire and smoke, he took up the staff of his stewardship that lay at his feet and broke it on his knee. Casting the pieces into the blaze, he bowed and laid himself on the table, clasping the Palantir with both hands upon his breast. And it was said that ever after, if any man looked in that stone, unless he had a great strength of will to turn it to other purpose, he saw only 2 aged hands withering in flame. In other words, the only vision that you can now get out of that particular Palantir is these hands, burning hands, which was like Denethor's last vision. So maybe you've got a thing where Tar Palantir looking in the Palantir, seeing or feeling this because he had the gift of prophecy. So perhaps it's what he's constantly dwelling on, the fact that Numenor is going to be destroyed, and so perhaps his emotional state has kind of imprinted itself onto the Palantir. I don't know. That's a far-fetched theory, but I'm not sure why it would just show the downfall of Numenor over and over again. Oh, regarding the vision in the Palantir, Galadriel mentions that not all things seen come to pass. That is a reference to her words to Frodo, the Mirror of Galadriel in Lord of the Rings.
Let me ask you about something that confused me.
Sure.
So at the very end of it, they show Galadriel leaving.
Yes.
And then they make a big deal out of the fact that, who wants to go with? And then we discover that the Queen is going with.
Right.
So it was like, what, is she leaving twice? Did they fool, or did they know that or are they just screwing the audience by thinking, surprise, she is going?
In other words, you saw Galadriel sailing away, and then Galadriel was back? Okay, yeah. I mean, again, Galadriel in the lore was never on Numenor, so this is all new material.
Sure.
But
okay.
I think what they're trying to say is they were sending Galadriel away by herself. Hey,
right.
Goodbye.
Yep.
And then when Nimloth started shedding its petals, that was a sign to Miriel. Oh, my dad predicted when that tree dies, bad things will happen. So, hey, out there, row back. And so we didn't see that part. But yeah, they were like, never mind. Okay, we take it back. Tree, are you okay? Please keep your petals. Thank you. All right. Anyway, so now we're going to go all together. I think that was the idea. So you're right.
Really?
She sailed away. Off screen, she sailed back. And then now they're going.
Because I would think it was like, they just didn't want to let you know that she was on the crew until that happened. Until, you saw that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, yeah, no. I think that was literally that was in chronological order. She went away, came back.
Yeah, I think I think I would have appreciated some of the hands being like, "What?"
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it in the reaction video, but I believe that with Muriel going to Numenor, that leaves Pharazôn kind of basically in charge back on the island, and I think that's where he's going to cement his power base, and so it'll be very tough for Muriel to come back and take control. Is my guess.
Ooh, all right.
But, there was a name drop of Orodruin, that is Mount Doom. Bronwyn mentions, Orodruin. No. So anyway, they're setting it up. Mount Doom's going off.
Okay,
it's going to explode.
Ooh.
End of the season. Last Easter egg, we get a reference to the Mirror Mirror. That was Durin and them are talking about it.
Oh, okay.
We do. It's a lake of water. It's a pool of water. We do see that pool in the trilogy. Frodo gazes into it after Gandalf's fall in Moria. The Mirror Mirror holds major place in Dwarven lore. It's the first Durin the Deathless, traveled Middle-earth looking for a new home for the dwarves. When he came to the Mirror Mirror, he gazed into it, and despite it being daylight, a crown of stars appeared over his head in the reflection. He took that as a sign. Khazad-dûm the result. So there you go. That's how Khazad-dûm got its origin story. Anyway. Yeah, those are the Easter eggs I saw.
Cool.
If you guys have some Easter eggs out there, let me know what you saw as well. I would say Isildur had a strange choice in this, right? Like his choice to openly sabotage the trials is an odd one, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. People make dumb choices. They do. But it's like, I don't want to bring shame to my family by quitting. So instead, I'll bring shame to my family by openly sabotaging the mission. I'm like, wait. There are a lot of ways you could have not done this. And you chose maybe the worst way to do it. Anyway, okay, good on you, Isildur. The opening credits, we see a lot of time. It's like sand and materials like vibrating through sound. It's like vibrations are moving the rocks essentially. First of all, that is likely a reference back to the music that created the world. So the Ainur, the song that created the world. So that's kind of an interesting idea of like creation through music, through sound.
Okay.
But also we have a reference here in the show where Disa, Durin's wife, talks about how the dwarves can sing to the rocks. And here she has that song. She sings a song hoping for the safe return of the miners, and they in fact do return. But anyway, so it's kind of interesting. I like. It looks cool for one thing, but it's also a nice little nod to some of Tolkien lore, I think.
Okay.
I might be reaching a little far for that, but I think that's there. I think it's there.
Cool.
In fact, I think that maybe this idea of dwarves using sound to shape the rock or something could be something that Celebrimbor ends up using in his crafting of the rings, perhaps. It could be like I never knew that. Thank you, dwarves. I will take your technology and exploit it. But we'll be back talking about episode 5, also talking about House of the Dragon, talking about She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to drop a video for Hobbit Day, which is coming up on Thursday. So we'll see if I can get that turnaround. But yeah. So I'm coming back for that. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.